Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's the one common theme between the Gandhis, Partha Chatterjee, Sanjay Raut, Mehbooba Mufti and Anil Deshmukh? Well, they're all facing the heat from the Enforcement Directorate. Mired in money laundering allegations, these politicians cutting across political lines have in unison alleged misuse of the ED by the Modi government. But today, that claim has been blown to smithereens. And not just by anybody, that charge has been busted by the highest court of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court today dismissed a petition filed by 242 petitioners, including three prominent opposition leaders like Karti Chidambaram, Mehbooba Mufti, as well as Anil Deshmukh. The court has said that there is no arbitrariness in the provisions of the PMLA Act that empowers the Enforcement Directorate to conduct searches and seizures. They even held that the said attachment of property of those involved in money laundering is legally valid under this law. And what perhaps was the biggest blow to those contesting the Enforcement Directorate's powers was when the three-judge bench said that it is not mandatory for ED officials to disclose the grounds of arrest at the time of detaining an accused in a money laundering case. Now the question remains, will the opposition concede defeat? Because even today, as Sonia Gandhi faced the Enforcement Directorate's volley of questions for a third day, her party's loyal foot soldiers hit the streets in protest. Their leaders have been calling the ED a BJP agent, an idiot and a vendetta machine of the government. Will they apologize tonight? It's definitely the BJP's expectation, but the opposition is far from it. Listen in to the war of words.
We welcome the order of the Supreme Court, but we are against the misuse. Supreme Court should check whether how they are going to stop the misuse of ED on honest people.
So they have tried to generate these kind of issues which are not worthy of being discussed. Secondly, whatever Honorable Supreme Court has passed the order, that validates the position of the government and the content in the law.
It is so surprising that the Constitution every day in and out is being shattered every day. The central agencies are being used for political purposes and for politicizations. Even the judiciary to a large extent seems to have gone in that way.
The court has just now upheld the PMLA and the ED's jurisdiction, and the Supreme Court has said very clearly that they have that jurisdiction.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court may have settled the debate on the Enforcement Directorate's powers, but is there merit to the argument that the agency is in an overdrive to target BJP's political rivals? Here are some statistics. If you look into the track record of the 10 years of UPA and the last 8 years of the Modi government, there has been a 27%, in fact a 27 times increase in the crackdown by the central agency. More raids, more convictions, more charge sheets filed, and way more assets that have been attached. Does that mean the agency is acting under the influence of the ruling party, or does that simply mean that the agency is now acting more independently? And that brings me to the legitimate question tonight. Has the Supreme Court exposed ED bashing brigade? That's the question, and that's the debate. SC powers ED. That's the hashtag and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, Shubhrastha, author and founder of The Churn, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, advocate Kapil Madan, Congress supporter, Akshay Marathe, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. But my first question goes to senior advocate Biswajit Dev, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. I want to ask you, Mr. Biswajit Dev, is this debate now settled, given the fact that the Supreme Court has thrown out, and this was a petition of several political leaders from different political parties. The Supreme Court has found no merit in the charges made by these leaders and has thrown out the case and upheld the powers of the ED. Can you still find fault with the ED when actually, when the ED raids people, tons of money is found over there, and courts have failed to give bail to several of those who have been arrested by the Enforcement Directorate? Does your charge fall flat tonight?
Well, Supreme Court has upheld the validity of the PMLA Act and its power to seize, attach and arrest and all these things, issues. But we are not on that. Supreme Court cannot do anything while we can see that ED, CBI and other central agencies under the garb of the Act are being misused politically against the leader of the oppositions, various opposition leaders, while conducting the investigation. Well, this is where we object to. Our objection is not with regard to what Supreme Court has settled today. Supreme Court has settled the law and Supreme Court has set out the guideline that what should ED do. But unfortunately, what ED is doing is not as per law. What the central agencies are doing is not as per law. And we can see that in April this year, our Honorable Chief Justice of India had also raised this issue, that the central agencies are not acting in a proper way. And that is why there's a need for an independent umbrella under which all the central agencies should be clubbed together. But unfortunately, the central government is not willing to do, because their backbone consists of ED, CBI, income tax, SFIO, etc. They don't have any other backbone. Their backbone is CBI, ED and all these central agencies. So unfortunately, which is not befitting in a democratic setup, whatever is happening, you see, all these central agencies are blatantly used against the opposition parties, against the Trinamool Congress, including the other opposition parties, at the sweet will of the BJP, whenever it is required to stop or resist the opposition.
So, Mr. Deb, let me ask you a very simple question. The loads of money that has been found, is it because the ED put it there? Because it has been found with the close associate of a minister, and he continues to be a minister despite his arrest, Mr. Partha Chatterjee. And the fact is that even as we speak, the raids are going on, the counting machines have gone in to count the notes from another residence of the close associate of the minister. Envelopes bearing his ministry's name and stamp have been found with the notes in it. Are you saying you vouch for Mr. Partha Chatterjee and his innocence and still call the ED an agency that is just going after the opposition?
Well, madam, let me clarify first. Let me clarify, which has been repeatedly clarified by the All India Trinamool Congress, that this lady from whom this cash was recovered has nothing to do with Trinamool Congress. She is not a member of Trinamool Congress, and neither Trinamool Congress has got anything to do with the cash. Let the law take its own course, and if Partha Chatterjee is found guilty, he will be punished as per the provisions of the law, and we will throw him out. But the question is, please do not delay it. Our request to the investigating agencies, don't drag it. Don't drag it as you have done in Shubhrastha case, in Narada case, in chit fund case, and used it blatantly against the Trinamool Congress leaders whenever required, just for the purpose of political gain. Don't do that. Don't do that. Complete the investigation within a time-bound schedule. File a charge sheet if there is anything, any evidence, and let him face the trial. and send him to jail if he is found guilty.
But till such time, Gaurav Bhatia, but till such time the trial happens, the conviction happens, he will continue to be a minister in Mamata Banerjee's government. That's the position that Mr. Biswajit Deb is taking. Do you think, once again, there is nothing to do between the money that has been found in Arpita Mukherjee's residence and Partha Chatterjee?
Navika, the Honorable Supreme Court has given a landmark verdict. It has reaffirmed the credibility and the powers of the ED. And at the same time, the opposition is fighting a battle to save the little credibility that it has. And let me analyze, certain points that have been made on factual basis. Is it not true that in the National Herald case, Congress Party Chief Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi moved the High Court and the Supreme Court? Both the courts decided not to quash the charges against them because there was merit prima facie. Second, Karti Chidambaram was today before the Supreme Court. The charges have not been quashed. Mehbooba Mufti was before the Supreme Court, charges not quashed. Nawab Malik, Navika, you would recollect, 5 months he has been in jail. What did the opposition say? It is political vendetta. But he doesn't even get bail from the competent courts of the country. Satyendar Jain, Kattar Imandar, जनता जान गई है कट्टर बेईमान हैं, 2 महीने से बेल नहीं हुई है, जेल में है. And now look at the duplicity. You remember that case of Ashish Mishra? They were gunning for the minister because his son had done something wrong, allegedly. Now the matter is pending. But Nawab Malik, minister in NCP, hasn't resigned. Satyendar Jain, minister in Aam Aadmi Party, continues to be a minister. And Partha Chatterjee, 21 crores, a separate flat for his pet dog. Foreign exchange reserve around 54 lakhs. He continues to be a minister, but the trial should be completed. Did you apply the same principle for the minister in the union government? No, you didn't. And coming next, they say ED is an idiot. And Rahul Gandhi for them is Rahul Einstein genius. And the difference is this: ED has seized assets worth 1,04,000 crores, but it is an idiot. And Rahul Gandhi, who doesn't even attend the parliament, has asked 0 questions in the parliament, is out on bail on corruption charges, is a genius. This is the irony of politics of today from the opposition side, and people can see through it.
Well, Kapil Madan, I want to ask you. When the UPA was in power,
and the irony of ED is 0.46 conviction rate. Conviction rate is only 0.46%.
Sir, during the UPA,
I'll answer that also. My turn will come. I'll answer that.
Okay, during the UPA, may I just give you statistics? During the UPA, 0 convictions in 10 years. At least there are 23 convictions in the last 8 years. Maybe you'd like to chew on those statistics for a while till I get Kapil Madan in. Kapil Madan, I want to ask you. The CBI was a caged parrot. The CBI carried out cases against starting from Narendra Modi to Amit Shah to MK Stalin, when even the support was pulled in, the alliance was broken, Jagan Reddy, Gulab Chand Kataria, all of these cases we remember during the Congress regime, but they were not vendetta. But now, in the NDA regime, if there are agencies that are asking questions, only asking questions after Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi have not got relief from the courts, well, it's being called political vendetta, and there is satyagraha on the streets. I want to ask you why.
So Navika ji, one thing Mr. Bhatia mentioned that there is a case of corruption. So I don't know from where he is talking about corruption, but because National Herald is not a case of corruption, because he himself is a lawyer, I would like to ask him straight. I have asked this question to Mr. Patra also on your show. He could not answer. Again, since Mr. Bhatia is a lawyer, I will invite him on national television to show which section of Prevention of Corruption Act is attributed in this case. I would be very happy to be enlightened by Mr. Bhatia, and perhaps his answer would reveal.
What is the corruption charge?
Who is the genius,
who is
intelligent, who is not. Let him first respond.
Can I respond?
Yes, sir.
Yes, let me respond. So first of all, the sympathizer of the Gandhi Parivar has no defense for the wrongdoings of the Gandhi Parivar. Let me make it very clear. One, there is a case under 424/67 of the IPC which has not been quashed by the Supreme Court, and Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are out on bail. So if there is an offence under the Indian Penal Code, you think that is not lack of probity for the leaders like Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi? Second, the Money Laundering Act prescribes that there has to be a scheduled offence, and now they are being interrogated. So that again, there is a possibility tomorrow they will be charged under the Money Laundering Act. I wouldn't like to preempt. Third, you know, is this not corruption when you take a place which has been allotted to a party and use it for your personal gain? You know, 2,000 crore worth of property assets transferred to Young India. Young India did not even pay a penny from their pocket. And this again needs to be interrogated. There are orders of the income tax also. So time will unfold and reveal how corruption, act of money laundering and illegal offences have been committed by the Gandhi Parivar.
Now, can I respond, Navika ji, to Mr. Bhatia?
Please go ahead.
So Navika ji, Mr. Bhatia's response reminds me of a person who goes for an exam, does not know the answer, and writes everything except for what is the answer of that question. My question was very, very specific. Is there a section of Prevention of Corruption Act attributed in Gandhi's case? He could not answer. He has spoken everything except to the question asked. So that is point number one. Now let me now respond to the other point where you say that why ED is doing its job and they're doing it aggressively, they're doing it rigorously. So Navika ji, in your opening remarks you mentioned that there are more conviction. Now if ED has registered 5,000 odd cases and 23 cases ends up in conviction, that comes to less than 0.5%. I don't know on what logic you say that the conviction is more. Perhaps there could be a different definition of more. In fact, what I understand of more is
why
definitely
why don't you answer the simple question that Karti Chidambaram went to court. Karti Chidambaram went to court and hasn't got any relief against the ED. So why don't you talk about that? But breaking news coming in. Those are the new pictures of a cash haul at Arpita Mukherjee, the close associate, allegedly the close associate of Partha Chatterjee, the Trinamool Congress minister. It is said to be more than 15 crores according to current estimates. Counting is going on. It might take an entire night for the counting to take place, and about 3 kgs of gold bars have also been found. 3 kgs of gold bars that have been found. Mr. Biswajit Dev, those pictures on our screen are the latest haul from Arpita Mukherjee, who has nothing to do with the Trinamool Congress, who has nothing to do with Partha Chatterjee, and just some deeds, property deeds have been found from each other's houses, and some diary entries which point towards money and hisab kitab that is showing up in another person's house, but allegedly nothing to do with it. Let me get in Sanjay Hegde. Sanjay Hegde, money is found in the place
we again repeat that we have got nothing to do with Arpita Mukherjee, and neither we have got anything to do with the cash. Trinamool Congress does not support any corruption. Let me make it clear, and we are not on it.
So do you have anything to do with Mr. Partha Chatterjee? Do you have anything to do with Mr. Partha Chatterjee? He was a minister in your government. He continues to be a minister in your government.
Well, let me ask you one question. Has anything been recovered? Any cash been recovered by the ED from Mr. Partha Chatterjee's residence? Can he show us? Can the ED show that cash has been recovered from Partha Chatterjee's residence.
Okay.
We are not supporting, we are not advocating for anyone. If anybody is found guilty, whether it is Partha Chatterjee or any leader of Trinamool Congress, party will not spare him. We do not support any corruption whatsoever. But let it be proved before a court of law. Don't hold media trials. Don't hold kangaroo courts. I am again repeating, this was exactly what our Honorable Chief Justice of India also said. Please let the investigation go on. Let the law take its own course. And if the person is found guilty, we will take appropriate action.
All right.
But
Sanjay Hegde, Mr. Sanjay Hegde, Senior Counsel, I want to ask you. Now the media is being accused of holding a media trial. I'm only saying that if such visuals come up, is the media supposed to look at those visuals, admire the cash and ask no questions? Number one. And number two, while I'm not saying, I'm not precluding a judgment on this matter because the matter will go to court, the ED will have to prove its case in a court of law. I'm not taking a position on that. But I'm saying when an agency goes and raids people and then finds cash, and it says that it is in connection with this, the proof of the pudding will be in the court, but cash is recovered. Do you think after that you will still call the agency as an agency which is carrying out a vendetta?
Let's keep the politics aside out here. I just want to explain to people, to your viewers, what the court judgment is and how dangerous it is. You see all this cash bundle. You say it belongs to X or Y and it is out of money laundering. Now just take an ordinary person who possibly bought a flat from this Miss Mukherjee about a year ago. He didn't know anything about Miss Mukherjee. He saw a flat, he bought it. Today his judgment empowers the ED to say that, okay, you bought that flat. That is proceeds of crime. I'm attaching the flat. I might decide to arrest you because you were also involved in this money laundering transaction. I might further decide that I don't even have to give you the reasons because the ECIR is political. There are so many details. I don't have to give you reasons. And you will not get bail because you do not satisfy the two tests. We have made, as a republic, we have made a very harsh law. So many people, including the three people you mentioned, went to court and said, look, this appears to be unconstitutional. Today, a three-judge bench has said, no, it is constitutional. Yes, the three judges' judgment is entitled to respect, but I do think that there are times where courts have made mistakes. It was a constitution bench of the Supreme Court in 1976, which said that in ADM Jabalpur, that your right to life is a gift of the constitution and can be suspended. Many years later, children of the same judges had to overrule it. This is the upholding of a harsh law, which to my mind has been upheld by people who are more executive-minded than the executive themselves. It is dangerous. Forget all the politics. It is dangerous for ordinary men and women who will get caught in the grip. And it's not necessarily the top ED officers. Now, every small official within the ED can become a mini director. You said that the agencies produce visuals for you. Should we look away? You saw what happened in the Wankhede case. There were so many visuals, so many people being summoned. Everything was fine. Everything became a subject of comment. What happened at the end? What we really need is reasonable laws which can be uniformly administered. I do not think that today what is happening with the ED is healthy for our democracy.
Well, Shubhrastha ji, the law was made when the Congress was in power. There were a few amendments that were made in 2018 and the jury is still out on that. Nobody questioned these laws. during the time when it was passed in the Congress era. Now the same Congress leaders are saying that the judiciary has gone bad. Mr. Sanjay Hegde, if I heard him correctly, said that these judges are more executive-minded than the executive itself. And the same Congress leaders who actually brought in the law have contested the law before the Supreme Court when the shoe was on the other foot. Shubhrastha ji, what is the ordinary person on the street expected to feel about this and understand about this?
Navika ji, I have a couple of questions to ask of Mr. Sanjay Hegde. What he says is an opinion, and his opinion is as valid as any one of our opinion on the show. Has ED ever knocked on his doors or on my door or on the doors of any of the individuals sitting here in this panel? We all have toiled hard and have reached to wherever we are today. And I don't think ED is in the business of harassing people like you and I who have made a living out of sheer hard work. If there are, politicians being held accountable by the ED, there are multiple other people who are also being held accountable for the ED who are not politicians, and they don't make to 9 to 10 prime time shows. But why are we dismissing the very fact that these politicians are under the radar because of some nefarious financial transaction here and there? I have utmost respect for Kapil Madan's, illustrious logical arguments that he tried to give me, all of us on the show. But let me ask Mr. Madan also, if Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are too clean on the National Herald case, why don't they just do a press conference and put the matter to rest? Ordinary citizens like me have been asking this for a pretty long time, ever since the name came up in the National Herald case, which has been more than a couple of years now. What really stops Congress politicians at the top, which is Sonia and Rahul, whose name is mentioned in this particular case, to come up, do a press conference, address a couple of questions by journalists like you, Navika ji, and maybe a couple of us can float in our questions and put the matter to rest? Why has it become a show and a drama on the streets of Delhi and on the streets of Delhi alone? I don't see, Rahul Gandhi going out on the streets of, his own constituency to protest against this. It's only Delhi. It's only, at a place where the national media can run to cover him. And then the Congress politicians and, of course, the supporters expect us to believe that they are crystal clear. This is also, Navika ji, a matter of perception, and politics, fortunately or unfortunately, is run on perceptions. If there is a perception flaw with respect to the Congress leadership, which it is, in 2013 they were ousted on matters of corruption, and Kapil Madan may try to wriggle his way out to say that it's not a case of corruption, it's a case of gross financial misappropriation. The whole National Herald, Young India, Private Limited, and that entire case is mired in financial impropriety. Times of India, a sister entity, or rather the parent entity of Times Now Group, actually covered this entire story. And look at the way in which large amounts, swaths of land and resources have been accumulated by the company whose ownership lies with Sonia and Rahul. Assets worth 300 crores plus from an organization that had just 5 lakh in its accounts for, as late as 2010. So these are questions which need answers. And these answers cannot come on television debates by a couple of supporters who, support the Congress party. They have to come out of the horse's mouth, which are the directors who have been named in this controversy. It's a pretty plain and simple logic. And my original question as to ED is not harassing me, or ED is not harassing any middle class citizen that I know of.
Well, so let me ask,
salaried or whoever.
Yes, Kapil Madan.
Corporate.
Kapil Madan, you have a question about why Young Indian case is being, and where is the corruption? I'll tell you. AICC gives a loan to Young Indian, and then that loan is not returned, and National Herald stops its printing, and then Young Indian is taken over by Rahul Gandhi and Sonia Gandhi, and you say this is not. I want to know, is the political party, the AICC, in the business of financial lending?
Now, Navika ji, 3 quick points. One thing, you are not a lawyer. I will not, raise this question to you. Again, Mr. Hegde or Mr. Bhatia can clarify. If there is a corruption issue, the first thing the agency will do is to invoke Prevention of Corruption Act, which is not the subject matter of this case. That's point number 1. Point number 2, my friend Shubhrastha here made 2 remarks. First is that she said that Mr. Gandhi is doing because he needs a media coverage. So I just wanted to, remind her, he is the same person against whom the entire BJP will start talking about him while discussing something else. So if you think he needs a media, attention, or if he is doing, a protest to get a media attention, then you are, living in a different world. Now, the other point,
you're talking about the Prevention of Corruption Act. May I tell you, this is diversion of funds, and that is called money laundering, and that is the case. You've argued these issues in a court of law. The court of law has not given you any relief or given the Congress party any relief in this, and big lawyers have argued your case. So let's not waste the time of the Newshour on this, but let me get Akshay Marathe in. From the hour. Mr. Akshay Marathe, my question to you is simply, it's true the fact that, the conviction rate is low for agencies in India. Whether you look at Enforcement Directorate in PMLA cases, or you look at murders, or you look at thefts, or you look at corporate civil cases, everywhere, conviction rates are pretty low. And we all know the backlog of cases that exists in the courts of India, right from the trial courts up to the Supreme Court. We all know that. But may I ask you, when somebody is raided or arrested by the Enforcement Directorate and cannot or has not, despite several appeals to courts of law, not got a bail, can you still vouch for the fact that the charge against the person or the agency that made the charge against the person is wrong and it is born out of vendetta? I'm asking you this question. And secondly, today in the High Court, there was a case that was filed on why Mr. Satyendar Jain should be removed from his position as a minister that he continues to hold. And while the High Court hasn't really given any direction for his removal, in its judgment, paragraph 23, it says, it is pertinent to note that at this juncture, while it is not for the court to issue directions to the chief minister, it is the duty of the court to remind these key duty holders about their role with regard to uphold the tenets of our constitution. The chief minister exercises his discretion in choosing members of the cabinet and council of ministers. The council of ministers has a collective responsibility towards the constitution, and whether a person who has criminal background has been charged with offences involving moral turpitude should be appointed and should be allowed to continue as a minister or not is a decision for the chief minister to take. I want to ask you, a party like yours that had its foundation in its fight against corruption, and it's a party that upholds and wanted to bring back morality in politics. How is that morality reflected to the people when you continue to have him in the post as a minister despite being in jail and not getting bail?
Navika, the reason is very simple. The Aam Aadmi Party very strongly believes that Mr. Satyendar Jain has done no wrong. And we believe that, as in many previous cases against Aam Aadmi Party leaders, even Mr. Jain will be acquitted by court, as it has happened in several cases. It happened with Mr. Sisodia, it happened with many other leaders, that the BJP government filed all these kinds of false cases and eventually the courts acquitted them. So let's leave that to the courts. I don't want to defend Mr. Jain here unnecessarily. Let the courts let the law take its own course. But on the question of the Enforcement Directorate, I think there are 2 separate issues that we need to understand. One, as Mr. Hegde has explained, that the constitutionality and legality continues to be under question, and maybe perhaps later the Supreme Court might change its mind. But be that as it may, the allegation of the Aam Aadmi Party and many other opposition parties is that the Enforcement Directorate is cherry picking the cases that it wants to take. It is only and only picking opposition party and opposition party leaders to go after, despite the fact that there are all kinds of BJP leaders involved in all kinds of scams. Let me give you one example of this. In 2014, Mr. Subhendu Adhikari, who is today the BJP leader and a leader of opposition in the West Bengal Assembly, was questioned by the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI. But now that he is a part of the BJP, the Enforcement Directorate has forgotten that Mr. Subhendu Adhikari was involved in the Sarda scam. So my singular point is that the Enforcement Directorate's powers may be under question. The court can decide what to do with the powers. But today, as things stand, the agency is being used by the BJP to go after its opponents and not using it to go after genuine cases of corruption by members of the BJP. Now, we all know that there have been many scams. For example, the Vyapam scam in Madhya Pradesh, the thermal power plant scam, the ABG shipyard scam. All of these scams are worth thousands of crore rupees. The Gujarat Hooch tragedy, where 55 people lost their lives, also had some kind of money laundering involved in it. But we don't see the Enforcement Directorate that is run by the BJP going after elements that are involved in corruption and money laundering.
Respond, Gaurav Bhatia.
The involvement of the BJP.
Why is it that only opposition leaders are under the radar, not one from the BJP? Is everybody in the BJP Satyavadi Harish Chandra?
Especially Subhendu Adhikari. I want to hear what Mr. Bhatia has to say about
it. Let me respond one by one. I've heard everybody. First, the bogus argument given by my colleague Kapil that there is no corruption charge. Let me say this, that having a cheating charge, having a charge of dishonestly misappropriation of property and criminal breach of trust, which Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi face, is a medal on their chest? No, it isn't. It attracts a 7 years punishment for 20, which is more than most of the offences under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Evasion of income tax, that's not a medal, that's not a badge of honor. It shows how dishonest these people are. And let me also make it very clear, the argument that is being advanced regarding cherry picking and political vendetta, I challenge both of them to even cite one Supreme Court judgment or High Court judgment where a political leader has been able to successfully contest his petition and get the FIR and the charge sheet quashed. Not even one, Navika. The remedy that they have is to move the Supreme Court or the High Court and get the cases quashed. It's Bhajan Lal case which talks about political vendetta being a ground for quashing the FIR and charge sheet. Neither has it been done in the case of Satyendar Jain or Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi or Nawab Malik or many others. Now coming to what Mr. Hegde said, yes, Mr. Hegde is absolutely right that every citizen has the right to avail the legal remedies available to him. But once you have availed of the legal remedy, the Supreme Court decides what is the law of the country and you have to abide with it. And when Mr. Hegde says ordinary men, I am flabbergasted because Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, as it is alleged, asset transfer of 2,000 crores. Definitely, it doesn't happen with an ordinary man or woman. What about Partha Chatterjee? 21 crore of currency lying. Doesn't happen with an ordinary man. Anil Deshmukh, 100 crore Vasuli racket every month. Doesn't happen with an ordinary man. So it's not as ordinary as Mr. Hegde is trying to portray it. Now coming to the last point regarding the conviction rate. Navika, all viewers should know that the job of the investigating agency is to investigate and then file a charge sheet before the court. And once the charge sheet is filed before the court, the cognizance is taken by the court. Can you be quiet, whoever you are?
But he raised,
Navika, please ask
he raised the question on Subhendu Adhikari. You may want to answer that because he said that he wants that
yes, I will answer
to that question.
I promise.
Yes.
I promise.
Okay.
I will.
Okay.
I will. It is my responsibility, but let me finish my point. Regarding the conviction rate being so low, let me make it very clear with numbers. Once the charge sheet is filed, it is for the court to either expedite the trial or whatever time it takes to give a free trial to everybody. The investigating agency has no role, and there are 922 cases under trial. Now coming to the last point, I would like to remind you that it is not as if the ED and the CBI and the other agencies do not take action against the BJP leaders. But you can't say that BJP should have more corrupt leaders. If we are an honest party, we are. Mukul Roy, he joined the BJP from TMC. And just for your knowledge, Mukul Roy was interrogated by the CBI while he was in the BJP. There is one Mr. P.V.S. Sarma. He was a BJP leader from Gujarat. ED took action against him, and there is a case against him. And there are many other examples, just like Ashish Mishra, son of a minister. He also was arrested by the CBI. So there would be many more examples, but that does not make you honest. You have to understand, Satyendar Jain is under the scanner.
If you have a point there, but let me just tell Mr. Kapil Madan, who's been trying valiantly to defend the Congress party. Mr. Kapil Madan, PMLA Act was passed in 2002 under the Vajpayee government, but notified on July 1st, 2005. You know by whom? Mr. P. Chidambaram as the finance minister. And it was actually Mr. Chidambaram who also moved amendments in 2005 when he was finance minister, and the Supreme Court has even quoted him. And the same law was questioned by his own son and Congress member of Parliament, Mr. Karti Chidambaram. Mr. Kapil Madan, the irony of this entire issue is that when the shoe is on your foot, you walk differently. When the shoe is on somebody else's foot, it begins to pinch you. The question is, life really comes a full circle when you're in power to when you're out of power. So law should remain above every citizen of India, and politicians are no different. Well, let's leave it at that for the moment. Thank you very much to all my panelists joining me on debate number 1.